Good morning, and thank you for joining us for our Love Data Week survey topic review. We're going to talk about programs and outreach today. This section is section I on the survey. It, I think, was one of the most confusing sections this year for everybody, and that includes me. And I just thought I'd take a few minutes just to review it and talk about some of the bumps we ran into on the way and what we can expect for 2022. You should be able to see my screen. If you can't see my screen, or either way, just let me know in the chat. You should be able to see a PowerPoint presentation. Okay, let's dive right in. I do admit that it was rough. It was a rough year. I certainly learned my first year what to prepare for next year, what training opportunities I have, to phrase it positively. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. And we will talk about 2021 and its roughness. And then we'll talk about some of the tools developed for tracking your programs and outreach in 2022. So I'll start with some clarifications that came up frequently throughout the survey process. The first one is, and this, the language was introduced by a committee that reviews that submits questions for review every year. And the one that they had, one big one for 2021 was using the language of synchronous and asynchronous. And this is one of those things that we can thank the pandemic for, because programs were being presented both live and recorded for later when we were trying to limit contact with each other. So synchronous means will mean continuing going forward, live or happening in real time. Asynchronous means it was recorded, so it was after the event ends. I will be, when I start the survey 2022 process, when I start working with our vendor to get that ready, I will update some of the language so it's less confusing for those of you who worked with the survey. Synchronous live, asynchronous means recorded after it happened. A program can be both synchronous and asynchronous. We'll get into the details a little on this later, but if you have a live program that's happening in person with humans in front of you, and you're also recording it, or you're also streaming it, streaming it via Zoom or Facebook Live or whatever you use that's live in real time. It can be both of the above. It will be synchronous. And then once you record it and put it out on YouTube, Vimeo, whatever you use, then it's asynchronous. So it can be both. And to confuse matters more, a program can also be outreach. So we'll get into some of that as we go forward. Pause for just a moment. Great. Another clarification, and this caused some problems. Not some problems, let's rephrase that. This caused some confusion. A program is counted, it can be counted, it should be counted in two separate sections. And the first section is the age group for which it was targeted. That's not necessarily who attends, it's who you targeted it towards. So let's say you have a craft day for teenagers or young adults aged 12 to 18, and you have several 10-year-olds show up. You intended the program for young adult, you would count it as a young adult program, regardless of who shows up. And then you also count it by its delivery method, whether it was on-site, off-site, or virtual. I'm sorry I didn't close that parentheses. That's oversight on my part. So I'm going to go over here to the survey. And let me pause again. So I went ahead and opened the survey to kind of explain what I mean. And this, I'll work with our vendor for the 2022 survey to maybe make this a little clearer. So questions 1 through 7 are all by, or I'm sorry, 1 through 6 are by the targeted age group. And it's a tally of the number of synchronous programs for that age group. With the total put in question 7. I3 is a holdover from last year. It's the total number of children's programs, meaning ages 0 through 11. I may continue to have that question. The future of that is on hold, but we'll discuss that probably a little later in the year, closer to the survey. So 1 through 6 are our age group targets. If there's no age group targets, like it's a family program or you really just don't target at all, you can enter that in number 6, general interest. And then 7 is where you would put the total number of synchronous programs. And then 8, 9, and 10 is where you would count the programs a second time, whether they were in person, on-site, off-site, or virtual, live virtual, I should say. And so the sum of I through 6, you enter that in I7, and then I8, 9, and 10, the sum of those 3 should equal what you entered in I7 because you're counting the same programs twice. Let me show you a, well, I hope to show you a, let's go ahead and go a little further ahead. So I developed this grid to help explain that a little better. So you can see a program, how you would count it and how you get to the sums for the survey. You count by your age group and then the delivery method. So this, I'm happy to distribute this. Please let me know. I have this in an Excel format. I can distribute this. If you'd like to print it off, you can. If you're not Excel friendly, I can also put it in PDF format for you if you really don't like Excel. But this should help get to how to access or how to count the programs. All right, so I'm going to go back. And so I've got some examples here of some of the questions that came up throughout the year or throughout the survey open period. The first one is take and make kits. And this was this is probably the one that was asked the most frequently when it came to programs. Unfortunately, there is not a way to count the take and make kits in the 2021 survey, or there was not. And that's unfortunate, but it's one of those that I have on my list. It could show up in 2022. Don't write it down in ink yet, but I'm really hoping that'll show up on 2022 survey so you can count the number of take and make kits that you've distributed. And one way that could be a program is if you have the take and make kits and then you have a live stream where you're showing how to make the craft, that would count as a synchronous program. If you just distribute the kits and have a recorded video on YouTube, that would count as an asynchronous or recorded program. So take and make kit itself, we don't really have a way to count it, but there are ways that you could incorporate it into your programs. So another example is a live story time that is streamed and recorded. I think this is pretty common. You would have a live story time either in person or over a virtual platform such as Zoom or Facebook Live. And then once that was recorded, it was put out on YouTube. So you would count that as a synchronous program, whether it was and then however it was delivered, either on-site, off-site, virtual. You would count that as targeted towards whichever child group it's. I guess story times are typically 0 through 5. So you would count it in those two boxes. And then once it's recorded, it becomes an asynchronous program. So you would count it there as well. And you would also count the number of views. What is the window for views? 2021, it was 7. 2022 could change. IMLS specifically says that when you are counting a live streamed virtual program, that you count the number of computers that have connected. And I think that's a very consistent way to do it. But let's say you have partnered with a local preschool or daycare or kindergarten class, and you live stream it. And the teacher of that class says, we had 15 children watching your video today. Technically, that's one computer connected. However, that teacher has given you an official count. I would lean towards counting those 15 students as attendees rather than just the one computer, because that's an official source. For your asynchronous views, same thing. Count the 50. If they tell you 15 children watched it, count the 15. I'm okay with that tiny rule bend. Let's say you have a booth at a farmer's market. Think about the nature of that booth. Are you giving out free books? Are you talking about services? Are you leading a cooking demonstration? I think if you're just handing out books, that would count as an outreach event. If you're reading the book at the farmer's market, that would be a synchronous program, offsite, and age group target. If you're just giving take and make kits, again, at this time, in 2021, we didn't have a way to count that. 2022, we'll talk about that. So think about the service you're providing at the farmer's market. Cooking demonstration would definitely be a live program. And that would be general audience, I would say. If you're presenting to City Council, maybe a budget presentation or a just general, here are all the fantastic things we do for our community. And here's some evidence, and here are some numbers and stories and pictures. One that is an outreach. I would, if it is a City Council meeting, I would say that would not count as a program. But I'm willing to hear arguments about that. If it's closed, especially if it's open to the public, which I think City Council meetings usually are, I still wouldn't count that as a program, but I would count that as outreach. You have an entertainer who sends you a recorded video tailored to your library, but it's pre-recorded. But you show it during a live Zoom or a live in-person weekly children's hour. That is a synchronous program. You're having the event, and during the event, you're showing the video. So you've got that pre-recorded video, but you're having an event around it. So so that would count as a program. If you had that pre-recorded video and the entertainer says, yes, you can put it out on your YouTube, then it becomes asynchronous. Or you're supposed to show it, things happen, you don't, so you just put it on your YouTube, then it would be asynchronous. Again, come talk to me. I want I definitely want to hear what you all think in these situations. If you have okay, so our last example is you have a bookmobile that makes regular rounds, does regular bookmobile stuff, but it's summertime and you decide to have a craft table at the bookmobile. You can't count a regular bookmobile stop as a program. However, if you're using that bookmobile stop to do something in addition to what the bookmobile normally does, that can be a program. So just doing regular bookmobile business, not a program. Doing a craft at a bookmobile stop, yes, program. Offsite and whatever age target. So yeah, those are your examples. Please email me more. We'll talk about that at a future presentation. I'm curious to hear some of what you may have done for 2021. Also, just want to put a note that 2021 was a learning year for me as my first survey. And it was our first year working together. So I am very open to critique, pointers, guidance, criticism. I'm very open to hearing it. I want 2022 to be successful for everyone and low pain as well. Here we go back to that matrix that I presented earlier to show you how you count programs. And just to get into a little more detail, the rows summed would be the total age target. The columns summed would be the delivery method. And then the sum of every box is the total number of programs offered. So again, happy to send this out. Let me know which works best for you. 2022 should not have very many changes. That section I should be the same. So we take what we learned in 2021, apply it to next year. It will go smoother. There is one small proposed change, and I think it's very positive. It has not been voted on yet. When it's time to vote, I will reach out to the listserv and we'll ask for opinions. But the one proposed change to programs and outreach in 2021, it was a 7-day after posting for asynchronous videos, asynchronous presentations. You had to tell me, you had to tell the survey the number of views within 7 days, which I understand can be cumbersome. Luckily, it's a transitional year. So we learn. 2022, the vote is that it become a 30-day window for recorded asynchronous program views. I think that's much fairer. I think it's better to capture more. Of course, I'm starting to lean towards count them all regardless, but that's unfortunately not what we're voting on. We're voting on a 30-day window. So please send me your comments, your debate, thoughts, and I'll let you know when the vote is due to happen. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the tools you can use to stay ahead of 2022. My plan or my hope is that I get started earlier, and that will allow you all, survey respondents of all types, that will allow you all to gather your statistics sooner, so it's not a scramble once the survey opens. So my goal is to help you stay ahead of as much as possible so that when the survey opens, you either have your printed sheets in front of you, you have your spreadsheets, you have your pivot tables, you have whatever, you post-it notes, however you collect your data, you have it ready and you can just type it in line by line. That is my goal. We'll see if that happens. And of course, I sometimes can be a last minute person. So I understand last minute very well. So hopefully we can stay ahead of that. So the first table I have, and I can send you this in Excel. I can send you this as a PDF printable. I can send you this whatever format you want, whatever's easiest for you. You can distribute it to your program folks. You can keep it to yourself. You can print it off, put it on a bulletin board at a desk, whatever you want to do. Just let me know how you want this, if you want it. And if you don't, that's fine too. Whatever works for you. I don't want to tell you how to do your statistics. So this is a form to capture the live or synchronous programs. So this is programs that happen in real time. They're viewed as they're occurring. You will put each program on its separate line. Do not list it twice. Like I said, a program can be happening in person and streamed live over whatever, Zoom, Facebook Live. You will only count that program once, and you will count that as either on-site or off-site in the delivery method section. You will also only count it once by age group. So if it was intended for both little children 0 through 5 and young adults ages 12 through 18, I would recommend that that's a general audience. You count that as general audience, or pick one age group, but do not count it twice within each section. So here you'll put in the program title. If it's helpful, I can add a column for the site where the program was held, whether that be a branch or an offsite location or a virtual space. I believe that will be helpful for you all if I add the site where that's held. The date it was held, the type of program. Again, if it's both on-site and virtual, you will count it as on-site. You targeted age, if you have one. This will be a drop down if you're using the Excel. The number of in-person attendance. And if you have a virtual component, you collect the virtual attendance as well. Because even though you only count the program under one place, you can account the attendance based on how they attended. So if you have an in-person event that's also live streamed, you can count the attendance for the in-person, and then you can count the attendance for the virtual under those two separate questions. I hope that's not confusing. So that is the form or the table for counting live programs. If you are using the Excel, this will generate, this will total up all your programs and will tell you what to enter on the survey in the appropriate question. Okay. There is a separate tab on the Excel for recorded or asynchronous, meaning not viewed as it happens, cannot be viewed as it happens. So either on-demand streaming, such as YouTube, YouTube, Vimeo. I think Facebook you can watch it later as well. I got to look at some of the Facebook metrics statistics, and it really breaks it down very well. Very impressed with the live versus views after it was live. Just a side note. So if it was recorded and made available later, it can also be counted as recorded asynchronous. You enter your program title, the date that you posted. It will generate this. If you use the Excel, again, you can print this off. You can print it, copy it, use this paper. I'm okay with that. Whatever works for you. But if you're using the Excel, the program posting date, the 7 days after posting will be automatically generated. So you can type in the number of views within 7 days. It'll just be kind of a reminder to you that, oh, it's 7 days later, I need to look at the number of views. It's just a reminder for you. There's also a 30 days after posting. Like I said, we haven't voted on it yet. I don't know if it will pass or not, but just in case it does, I included 30 days to help you know when the 30-day mark is. If it doesn't pass, you have the 7 days. So if you're collecting as you go, you'll have both I hope that doesn't add too much work, but I just wanted to be helpful and cover all bases because, like I said, I don't want scrambling. And then you can enter the number of views within the 30 days after posting. If you want help, I can help you remember when to check your statistics for this. Okay, so those are some of the tools to make it easier for 2022. Again, big changes 2021. Don't expect big changes in 2022, just the window for asynchronous views or recorded program views. Just wanted to end with some data humor today. We talked about a lot of dry things, a lot of things that are a lot to think about, a lot of hypotheticals. So I just want to end with some fun. You may see this more than once if you're going to join us. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So if you're watching this by record, please email me, lcannon@statelibrary.sc.gov. Call me. I don't have my phone number memorized yet, but it is on the State Library's website. And so email me, call me. Feedback is welcomed and encouraged. See you perhaps tomorrow, and enjoy your Love Data Week 2022.